No matter how well a show is doing, it can't always necessarily keep hold of its most beloved actors. Whether it's a money problem, a fallout with the showrunners, or even a completely unavoidable personal drama, there are infinite reasons why someone may need to quit from a hit show seemingly way too early, the most egregious of which is when they leave after the very first season. So, I'm Amy from What Culture, and here are 10 actors who shockingly quit TV shows after the first season. 10. Christopher Eccleston in Doctor Who. Eccleston's leaving of the Doctor Who reboot really is the stuff of legends. After starring in the titular role for the first season in 2005, Eccleston made a storming departure after a few blowout arguments with showrunners. Speaking to fans at New York Comic Con in 2019, he explained that he left because of the politics of the show. Trying to avoid engaging in arguments proved impossible, and his working relationship with the producers and showrunners deteriorated to the point that he felt he had to leave. He's made clear in the years since that he loved playing the character and has nothing but respect for those that came after him, even going so far as to state that David Tennant, his successor, probably understood the role and its magnitude much better than he ever did. Unfortunately, his leaving the show was met with huge backlash, with the British press having an absolute field day speculating about and trash-talking his attitude to the show. Over a decade later, in an interview with the UK newspaper The Guardian, the actor alleged that what happened with Doctor Who almost completely destroyed his career, and it's thanks only to his work ethic and adaptability that he managed to get through it. He almost became just another victim of the tabloids. 9. Ross Butler in Riverdale. Riverdale in all its wacky glory has earned itself a very loyal host of fans. Fans who no doubt were a little surprised when character Reggie Mantle returned for the second season, not just with a different haircut, but with a completely different face too. It turns out that the one to blame for this replacement is another Netflix native series, 13 Reasons Why. As trashy as Riverdale is, I'm not sure why you would leave any show to go on to 13 Reasons Why, but I guess Butler had his reasons. In the end, Butler made a smart choice for his career. In an interview with Vulture, he explained that his scheduling between the two shows was causing issues. He was offered either a reduced screen time on both shows to work around his time limitations, or a larger presence on just the one, 13 Reasons Why. Wanting to dedicate himself to a more substantial role, Butler chose the latter, and ended up giving fans the glimpse of a relationship between himself and Hannah that left them wanting more of what they can never have. So it was a blessing and a curse, really. 8. Ruby Rose in Batwoman. Unsurprisingly, fans went a little crazy when Ruby Rose revealed she wouldn't be returning to the CW's Batwoman. With the pandemic, Rose had some more time to think things over, and unfortunately came to the conclusion that she needed to make some changes to her life, one of them being that Batwoman had to go. The stress she was under just wasn't good for her. She suffered a pretty gnarly injury in 2019 whilst filming for the show, and after surgery waited only 10 days before getting back to work. Just one example of the kind of pressure she found herself under when acting as a lead in a huge production, both Batwoman and the feature film The Doorman. After some self-reflection, she concluded that continuing the show just wasn't conducive to her long-term goals. She insisted she enjoyed the process and is very proud to have been part of a show that provided some LGBT+ representation to an otherwise very unrepresentative world. Sometimes you just gotta look out for yourself because no one else is gonna do it for you, and you kind of just have to applaud her for that. 7. Amel Amin in Sense8. So this one wasn't quite a firing, and it also wasn't quite a quitting. It was more of a collaboration between the two. Sense8 was easily one of the Wachowski sisters' most ambitious projects, and unsurprisingly it gained quite the cult following over its 2 seasons before being unceremoniously dumped by Netflix. Its explosive first season featured Amin in one of the main roles as Cafius Onyango, a Kenyan matatu driver saving up to pay for his sickly mother's treatment. His leaving was linked to a series of creative differences between himself and Lana Wachowski, culminating in a fateful table read for season 2 that left everyone reeling. After filming a couple of episodes for season 2, Amin's relationship with Lana was showing no signs of improvement, and so he called it quits. At least he knows he didn't end up missing out on something huge, as the second season ended up being the show's last. 6. Anita Barone in Friends. Someone who doesn't get the comfort of avoiding the FOMO however, is Anita Barone, the actress first cast as Ross's wife Carol in the hit sitcom Friends. Barone appeared in season 1 and made quite the impression, her one episode being the one with the sonogram at the end in which Ross finds out he's going to be a father. In the episode, we get to meet Carol and her girlfriend Susan, with Ross coming to terms very badly with the fact that the mother of his child still hasn't changed her mind and is still in fact a lesbian. As the series went on, we got to know Carol more and more alongside Susan and Ben, Ross's son. However, at the start of everything, there was no way to know how consistent a role it would be. Barone wanted to find something more permanent and so opted to leave the show at the end of the first season, then being replaced by the Carol we all know and love, portrayed by Jane Sibbett. She chose to leave the show that went on to be the most famous sitcom of a generation, and if that doesn't make you kick yourself, then I'm not sure what will. 5. Chevy Chase in Saturday Night Live. Speaking of incredibly popular shows, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who hasn't at one time or another heard of Saturday Night Live. Actor/comedian Chevy Chase first rose to fame in the 70s with his appearance on the very first season of SNL. In the years since, SNL has changed and evolved a hell of a lot, but the early days are still to thank for much of the show's fame and acclaim. There's been a lot of discussion over the years around what caused Chase to leave SNL so abruptly in the first season, with some people saying that difficult relationships with other cast members and bad behaviour on set were to blame. The real reason, Chase reveals in his biography, is much simpler. He explains that he left the show because he was deeply in love with a girl who simply refused to move from California, leaving him unable to pursue certain avenues of his career. The girl in question was Jacqueline Carlin, and they did get married, to be fair. However, they also got divorced pretty quickly. Maybe he would have been better off keeping at the show and going to visit her at the weekends. 4. David Caruso in NYPD Blue. Even though he appeared in a few episodes after the first season, NYPD Blue's David Caruso had thrown in the towel and tried to quit immediately following the premiere season's wrap. It's easy enough to say that it wasn't his fault and he was simply written out partway into the second season, but the reality is that if it was up to him, he would have been gone long before then. The producer at the time revealed in his memoir later that Caruso desperately wanted to be removed from the show. Towards the end of season 1, he asked to be excused from his contract and depart, a request that was refused by the show's producers. The fact was that the show was proving such a hit that they didn't want to jeopardize it. What they didn't count on, however, was that Caruso was perfectly capable of jeopardizing things himself. Reportedly, he became impossible to work with. Aggressive, argumentative, uninterested in work. He was basically trying his hardest to get fired because they refused to let him quit. Well, it worked, and soon into season 2, he got the departure he was begging for. 3. Jane Levy in Shameless. The US adaptation of Shameless is not to everyone's taste, but it has over the years managed to cultivate quite a loyal fan base. One of the show's beloved characters is Mandy, the daughter of the all-round horrible piece of work Terry Milkovich. Her choice to leave after one season still baffles people today, as Shameless went on to become one of Showtime's most acclaimed and popular programs. Levy made the leap from Shameless to ABC's Suburgatory, a show met with a lukewarm reception and cancelled after 3 seasons. Luckily for her, this departure didn't ruin her career in the long run, as she's gone on to feature in plenty of other shows and a few pretty good movies, including Don't Breathe and 2019's Evil Dead. It was a baffling but not ultimately terrible move, and it's pretty clear that Levy has a very fruitful career still ahead of her. 2. Farrah Fawcett in Charlie's Angels. Farrah Fawcett started making her name known in the big leagues in 1976, when the first season of Charlie's Angels hit screens. Playing an ex-police officer turned private detective, Jill Monroe, Fawcett managed to garner more fame than her fellow 2 angels. This, however, wasn't enough to keep her on board. There were a number of factors that allegedly played into Fawcett's departure, the first of which being cash. She was paid only half of what her co-star Kate Jackson was paid per episode, and despite the network making huge profits from using her likeness, she was paid only 2% in merchandising. Aside from this, she had ambitions to appear in movies and grow as an actress, things she just couldn't do staying with Charlie's Angels, even saying on record that being on the show made her feel creatively stifled. She's still got a recognizable name today though, and so she certainly managed to build herself a legacy both in and out of Charlie's Angels. 1. Regé-Jean Page in Bridgerton. Finally, we're back to the show that everyone's talking about with its most recent departure, Bridgerton. First airing on Netflix on Christmas Day 2020, this period piece quickly rose to the top of the trending list. Complete with a host of hilarious and very attractive actors, there really was was nothing to complain about in terms of likability, but no matter how much an audience enjoys a show, the cast can always feel different. Among the more recent controversy surrounding Sci-Fi's Krypton allegedly turning down Page for a role, allegedly because an executive said there was no way a series lead could be performed by a black actor, some people are still left scratching their heads over why he's just left Bridgerton. Unfortunately for the leagues of people who fell in love with him, Page only signed up to Bridgerton with the understanding of it being a one-season thing. He explained to Variety that he liked the idea of his appearance being limited, his arc being all done and complete before season 2 rolls around. It's perfectly reasonable, and he's sure to go on to do great things, with some people already turning their attention to the next James Bond, but that doesn't mean we have to be happy about losing him. And on that note, we've reached the end of this list of 10 actors who shockingly quit TV shows after the first season. If you can think of any more, then let us know in the comments down below. And remember to check out whatculture.com for more lists and articles like this every single day. I've been Amy from What Culture, and I'll catch you next time.